Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Lunalight deck profile. So I'm really excited for this deck, because this deck is still really good, even though Lunalight Tiger actually is still kind of banned, it's still really good. This deck is really fun to play around with. You can summon a really amazing boss monster in the form of Lunalight Leo Dancer, which is a fantastic boss monster that really gets the job done and helps you OTK your opponent. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description of every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Lunalight Kaleido. So Lunalight Kaleido is probably one of the best cards in the entire deck. It has the ability that once per turn, you can send a Lunalight card from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and this card's name becomes that monster's name of the sent monster that was sent to the graveyard's name until the end of the turn. And if used for a fusion summon, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 polymerization in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. You only use the effect of this card once per turn, and if this card is banished, you can activate the effect, but this turn your opponent cannot, cards and effects cannot be activated during the battle phase. This card is just all the deck needed, all in one, and is just really, really good in this deck because you can kind of bypass the old school way of having to go through your copy of Cat Dancer to Panther Dancer up into your copy of Leo Dancer. You can kind of skip that, where you can kind of take out the Cat Dancer and turn this card into Panther Dancer and then go directly into your copy of Leo Dancer, which takes a lot of the steps out of the deck where it makes it a little bit faster. We then play 3 copies of Yellow Marten. So Yellow Marten is really good in the deck too, because if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target a Lunalight monster you control and return it to the hand. And if you do, you special summon this card in a defense solution that banish it when it leaves the field. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you get to add a Lunalight spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect, which you can only activate each of its effects once per turn. We then play 3 copies of Lunalight Black Sheep. Black Sheep is also a really neat card and one of the better cards in the deck, because you can discard this card to add a copy polymerization from your deck to your hand, or add a Lunalight monster from your graveyard to your hand, which is pretty good as well. And if it's sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon, you can add to your hand 1 face-up Lunalight Pendulum monster from your extra deck, or a Lunalight monster from your graveyard, except another copy of itself, which is pretty good because if you use it as a fusion material, you can then add the other fusion material that you used back to your hand, like Kaleido. We then play 2 copies of Lunalight Wolf. Lunalight Wolf is pretty good too. This card is basically Miracle Fusion. The battle effect, the monster effect does not really come up, because if a Lunalight monster you control attacks and inflicts piercing damage, the actual really good effect of this card is the Pendulum effect, and it kind of just treats it as a continuous spell card when you play this card in the deck, because what it does is it acts like a Miracle Fusion to let you use monsters in your graveyard as materials to fusion summon, which is really good. And it's also kind of like a walking polymerization, because once per turn, you can fusion summon a Lunalight monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed from the field or the graveyard, which is pretty good, which can get you into essentially a second copy of Leo Dancer, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox. Crimson Fox is pretty good in the deck. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you get to target 1 face-up monster opponent controls and change its attack to 0 until the end of the turn. And then when a card or effect is activated that targets a Lunalight monster, and this is in the graveyard, you can banish this card from your grave, negate the activation, and each player gains 1,000 life points, which is pretty good and gets you a little bit extra life points as well. I like that effect just to give you a little bit extra to be able to help OTK your opponent. It does hurt a little bit when you're trying to OTK, but it's not that big of a deal because it prevents the targeting effects of other monsters. We then play a single copy of Blue Cat. Blue Cat's pretty neat because if this card is special summoned, you can target a Lunalight monster you control and double its attack, which is the big effect of this card as well. And then if this card on the field is destroyed by battle by card effect, you can special summon a Lunalight monster from your deck, which is pretty good too. We play a single copy of Emerald Bird. Emerald Bird is if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Lunalight card from your hand to the graveyard. Or, and if you do, you get to draw a card. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you get to target 1 of your level 4 or lower Lunalight monsters that's banished or in the graveyard and special summon it in defense position, negate its effects, which is a really good effect as well, just to be able to get those additional cards to your hand and kind of fix your hand sometimes. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just really good in this deck to stop your opponent from all sorts of stuff from touching their deck. It's just a really, really good effect to be able to block them from adding cards from deck to hand, special summoning from deck, or sending cards from deck to graveyard. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is just really good in the deck because it helps you a lot to be able to send the exact card that you need to the graveyard when you need it. So I really love playing this card in this deck. We play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster because it helps board wipe the back row, which is really nice for this deck. Back row is a big thing for this deck, so I also play 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. Cosmic Cyclone helps out a lot because it's going to banish stuff like Mystic Mine and stuff like that you want to OTK through. So this card can help out a lot in the deck, along with the Harpy's Feather Duster. We play 2 copies of Polymerization. Polymerization is the main way that you're going to be summoning your boss monsters in this deck, so this card is very important to be able to play in the deck. We play 2 copies of Lunalight Fusion. Lunalight Fusion is a really good resource in this deck because it lets you fusion summon 1 Lunalight monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And if your opponent controls a monster that was special from the extra deck, you can also use a Lunalight monster from your deck or extra deck as fusion material. So it's kind of like Shadow Fusion a little bit if you've ever played Shadows, but it's really good in this build. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization just helps you out all sorts of boards because a lot of your Lunalight monsters are actually dark, which is what's really good about this deck. The only one that's actually light is Wolf, and you're never going to summon that one to the field anyways. So you can go into Starving Venom really easily and out a lot of boards against your opponent by using one of yours and one of your opponent's monsters. And a lot of extra deck monsters are dark monsters, and it helps you out Dragoons, which is really nice. We then play 3 copies of Lunalight Perfume. Lunalight Perfume lets you target a Lunalight monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And you can manage this card from your graveyard, discard a card, and then you can add a Lunalight monster from your deck to your hand, which is really good in this deck to be able to add a Lunalight monster from your deck to your hand by discarding a card. We then play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. The Foolish Burial Goods are here to send your copy of your Lunalight Perfume to the graveyard so you then can discard and add, which is really nice. We play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. The Allure of Darkness, because the primary function of the deck is dark, so you have this card to be able to go off with. Then 3 copies of Fire Formation Tinky, because you're playing Beast Warriors. So this card's really good. Basically, you're playing all of your cards at 3 to 6 or 4 to 6 each, because if you're playing them at 1 and you play 3 Tinkies, you're essentially playing them at 4. If you're playing them at 2 and you play 3 Tinkies, you're playing at 5. If you're playing 3 and 3, you're playing 6 copies of every single card that's a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior, which is really good. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Lunalight Serenade Dance. Lunalight Serenade Dance is pretty good in this deck too, because when a fusion monster is fusion summoned to your field, which you're going to be primarily doing that now, you can target one of those monsters and apply these effects to either special summon a Lunalight token or target a gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent controls, even if this card leaves the field. And then during the main phase, you can banish this card from your grave to send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. And then if you do, special summon a Lunalight monster from your deck, which is another copy of a card that you can use with your copies of your Foolish Burial Goods to send this to your graveyard to get a Lunalight monster to your side of the field, like Blue Cat. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing double Lunalight Leo Dancer. Is really easy to summon this card to your side of the field, but you're never going to really summon 3. But what this card does is absolutely insane. It does require Lunalight Panther Dancer, but Kaleido Chick kind of lets you go past that. Send your Panther Dancer to the graveyard, and it counts as Panther Dancer when you fusion summon. And it has the ability that also this card must be fusion summoned with the above fusion materials and cannot be special summoned by other ways, and cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects as well. And this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. Then once per turn, at the end of the damage step, if this card attacked, you can destroy all special monsters your opponent controls, which essentially is going to get you a free attack on your opponent's life points, which is great. We then play 2 copies of Lunalight Panther Dancer. Panther Dancer is really good in this deck because what Panther Dancer does is it must be special summon and by fusion summon, and it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And once per turn during your main phase 1, you can activate the effect for each of the for the rest of the turn. The first attack on each monster your opponent controls that would be destroyed by battle is not destroyed, and also this can attack all monsters your opponent controls twice. So basically it inflicts extra damage against your opponent, and it's kind of the gimmick of your lower level Lunalight fusion monsters, where they don't destroy them the first time, they have to go in for a second swipe, and then they destroy them by battle, and then they can attack all of the monsters that your opponent controls, which is pretty good as well. And also when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it gains an additional 200 attack. We then play a single copy of Lunalight Cat Dancer. Cat Dancer is kind of there just in case you only have 2 Lunalight monsters. You rarely summon it, but it can't be destroyed battle, and then once per turn during the main phase 1, you contribute another Lunalight monster, and for the rest of the turn, each time this card would destroy a monster by battle, it does not destroy it, and can attack all monster your opponent controls twice each. In this turn, if this card attacks and inflicts damage to your opponent, or this card declares an attack, you inflict 100 damage to your opponent, which is not that great of an effect, but it's still a pretty good card to play as one of. We then play a single copy of Lunalight Saber Dancer, where Saber Dancer and Leo Dancer are usually the ones that you're summoning. It does require 3 Lunalight monsters and must be special summon, must be fusion summon, and it gains 200 attack for each Beast Warrior monster that is banished or in your graveyard. And your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your grave and then target a fusion monster you control, and it gains 3,000 attack until the end of the turn, which is really good to use with your copy of your Leo Dancer. We play a single copy of Starving Venom. Starving Venom is basically here for your one of fusion super poly target. You can play Mud Dragon, but the extra deck is extremely tight, so it's kind of up to you what you drop for it. But I really think playing at least 1 Starving Venom is the great way to play this. I haven't run into any issues with just playing this 1 super poly target, but you can throw in Mud Dragon if you feel like you need it. We then play a single copy of Raiders Knight because this card is really easy to summon in this deck, and the majority of the stuff is dark anyways, so it's really easy to go from Raiders Knight into your copy of Arc Rebellion because it's primarily dark, and this card is great for helping you OTK, and it's just a really, really good card. You can drop these out if you want to play a Mud Dragon and a number 60. That's totally up to you if you want to go that route, but I love playing Arc Rebellion in this deck because this card surprises a lot of people. It does make it so no other monster can attack during the battle phase, but it gains the attack of every single monster on the field. So your opponent has a low attack point monster and you have a bunch of high attack point monsters on your field. This card can be a single card OTK, which is really great, and it can kind of make the field where you have Cold Wave, which is really good. For the Link monsters, we're going to be playing a single copy of Access Code Talker. You can change it out for Boral Sword if you want to and want to make this deck a little bit more budget. It's an option for you guys. We play a single copy of Unicorn just to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, IP to go into Unicorn so we can get additional plays and spin stuff, Cross Sheep because this is a fusion deck, and a single copy of Anaconda because it always gives you access to all of your fusion spells, which is really great for this deck. So that's pretty much it for this deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play with. I highly recommend that you guys give this deck a try. It's still very good. It's not as crazy as it was when Tiger was around because you could basically like get a monster reborn constantly off its effect, which was ridiculous, but it's really good still and really fun to play with. So I highly recommend you guys pick this deck up because if Tiger ever gets unbanned, this deck is going to go right back to tier 1 status, I believe, or at least tier 2 rogue, which is going to be really amazing. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.